So we have actually cloned a lot of our callers. It's indistinguishable, right? You just cannot say what is AI, what is human, across languages, across emotions. Then no one cares if it's AI, if it's a monkey, if it's like someone, if it's Elon Musk calling. No one cares.
Apurv Agrawal is the founder of SquadStack. SquadStack is an AI-powered platform that helps brands like HDFC and Axis Bank to scale sales and customer service.
I'm wondering, does AI replace gig workers? Apurv, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. My thesis is that PMF is a journey, and you are somebody who's going to help us learn why it's a journey. Um, First of all, just describe what is this PMF? What does this mean? And
Right.
what
That's
is
a great question, man. I think
PMF? Yeah.
that's a great question, and it's actually it's I think one of the hardest concepts to understand as well. Uh, Someone really smart defined PMF as an emotion for the founders, especially where your customers or folks you want to sell to, they are like really banging your door so hard that they're basically breaking your door, right? And you're just not able to handle the capacity of demand that you're getting. So I think that is a fairly decent definition of PMF. I think that feeling that you always have a product that the market loves so much that they are just like grabbing it more than what you can deliver. So you always feel like I'm under capacity. I think is a fairly decent definition. I think the
Isn't that a
other
very high bar? If I think back to the last couple of
right.
years, I think only ChatGPT would have seen that situation where there is more demand than they were signing up people. There would have been a few of these, handful of these breakout products.
Right, right. No, no, man. I would say that at every scale, that breakout happens, right? I mean, we ourselves are feeling the same thing actually right now, that we have a lot more enterprise customers that we can sign up, and I'm actually running everywhere to recruit great folks who can help us implement our platform to these enterprises, right? So I think it happens at every level. Of course, I think what has happened with something like ChatGPT is truly historical level of PMF, I would say. But yeah, I think PMF has that kind of level of bar, Akshay, and that's why. And if you think about it, like really, I mean, it is a high bar, right? I think how many products truly fit in a market that it's amazing. And of course, I mean, you would probably say maybe a few hundred a year or something, right? Across the world, across categories. So it is, of course, a very high bar.
Okay, so we've not told the audience yet who you are and why you are qualified to talk of PMF. Give us an overview. You've done multiple ventures, even your current venture, it's now on its 10th year. And I feel like you've really lived through that whole journey of finding PMF multiple times. Just give us an overview of who you are and why you are qualified to speak on this.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Apurv Agrawal, and I am the founder and CEO of SquadStack. I originally was born in Ranchi and moved to Noida. Grew up in Noida in NCR, and when I was in my third grade, I went to my father's office and saw a computer for the first time. It was like '94, I think, right? And yeah, and I think I probably understood the meaning of love at first sight that time. And I don't know, I don't know what it was, man. Like I was just like so drawn to it, and I would just sit all day. And I was probably the only child who wanted to bunk school to go to my dad's office, and I think the everyone in that office noticed ki, like who's this kid who's just like trying to figure out something on computers all day. So they I think the office was sort of throwing away a computer, and then they gave that to us. and so this was like a pre-Pentium processor, and I ambitiously installed a Windows 95 in it. So I don't know how many people in your audience will still remember that blue screen loading screen, right? So I used to literally sit for 1 hour, man, like for it to boot up, and all the dial-up connection and stuff. So I tasted for the first time in that time, and then went on to pursue computer science engineering, and at that time I was in a long distance relationship with my girlfriend at a time, now wife, Vishnu, and so she was studying law, I was studying engineering, and then we were figuring out how to meet, right, and we didn't have, of course, we didn't have a lot of money to travel, etc. So what I could do, I knew I could write software, so I started like basically writing software for everyone in Vellore. Even now, if you go to like a pizza store, there the billing system is written by me. We created a business out of all the final year students who need to basically implement these projects, right? So we created a business out of that. But I think something that in this experience, which was more directed towards just like making enough money that I was very grateful to be able to not ask for money from my parents at all. Like I was financially independent from my first year. So I think that was great. But I think in this journey, I came across like a non-profit, uh, a very legitimate non-profit that had, I think, 200 plus suing centers, old age homes, like almost like 50 old age homes, like really like something that you would think, wow, this is impressive, right? And then they were literally like getting people to uh, shoot like videos on a camera and like make CDs out of it and ship those CDs all over the world. And I was like, come on, man, like, do you know there's something on YouTube and there's something you just like put this online, you'll get in a few clicks. Like, what are you doing? And then they told me that, we paid like 1 lakh rupees to someone and who basically gave them a blogspot type thing, basically. So they got fooled, right? Uh, so that was very interesting, and I realized, oh wow, okay, all these nonprofits are actually running large organizations, and it's just like 1 2 people who are doing, the, let's say, the management, right, and a lot of volunteers. So we realized that they actually need a lot of functions like that: web tech, social media, bookkeeping, legal support. And I was a kid who was very happy to, or I was, let's say, a first year engineering student who was really happy to contribute, and uh, because I felt that I'm creating impact and I'm actually learning a lot, right? So I realized that there are a lot of students like me across the world who would probably be willing to sort of give back to society, but also improve their skills. Also, most importantly, as you know, get that certificate which helps you with your masters, etc. So yeah, we created a whole platform out of this. So we were basically
Like a volunteering platform.
correct, tech volunteering platform though. So
Ah.
you contribute your skills, and so you can, so let's say content writer can write content, a legal student can help with like legal work, etc. And we would help nonprofits on one end. And I was really like, I was 17 when I started this, right? So in my first year, and I honestly could not even, I did not even know the meaning of the word entrepreneurship probably that time. And which sounds so funny now when I'm saying it to you, because in the world of Shark Tank, etc. I mean, the great thing is probably every 17-year-old now knows what an entrepreneur is. But yeah, man. So I mean, that is how, like, I think I really tasted the next level of that addiction of building, and yeah, that was very exciting. And then in my final year again, I was working with a startup in Delhi, which didn't go anywhere, but was still very valuable. And then finally, I joined Varun, who had basically sold his company to Make My Trip and was starting 91 Springboard. Original idea was actually to be uh, sort of a Y Combinator of India, and like have like a huge space where you also fund startups. And so we were we were trying to do all that, but we ended up being the largest co-working business, the formal co-working business, like a WeWork model for India, basically. And yeah, so that was again like a really great experience. Built everything from scratch, and that's where I met Kanika, and then Vikas was my batchmate from Vellore, and three of us then joined. And I think when I was surrounded by so to be very honest, man, sometimes I used to read like why entrepreneurs start companies, and there are so many, like, I mean, a lot of times entrepreneurs are just very obsessed with a certain problem, right? And they just want to solve that problem, like, uh, but to be very candid with you, for me it was that I had literally grown up reading blogs of the kind of cultures that we have now in SquadStack, and I just wanted to be part of that culture. I was just like reading everything about the valley, and I was just like really fascinated. And the 91 Springboard, we created like a little bit of a bubble, and there were so many entrepreneurs around, and I was in rooms where young startups were talking about their ideas, and I really felt like, I have nothing to advise these guys, man. I need to just, but I want to be this, right? I want to build something. So honestly, I came with this whole thing like a very purist, right? Like that, I just want to be building, right? And and I think one thing that we were very passionate about for me was the same thing that I saw in NGO Fuel. Decentralization of work is a very interesting theme that in some level has played around my whole life, and because even then it was crazy that I had, thousands of contributors. Many of them were like much more senior to me, and yeah, and they were just like, it was beautiful, right? A tech platform can just enable so many people to do free work in a way and create so much value. So I think that same theme I wanted to, like, I think at some level figure out how do we make a much larger business, much more commercial business out of this. And yeah, I was very young when we started SquadStack.
Which earlier
Almost.
was called Squadrun. When you started, it was called
Yeah,
Squadrun,
correct.
right?
It was called Squadrun, correct. Because the first idea literally was that squad is basically a group of people, right? So
Hmm.
we always knew it would be decentralization of work, and then the run was because we wanted people to, essentially, we wanted to create an army of people who can essentially be data collectors, right? So we realized that you need to digitize a lot of data that is offline, right? So we were working with like Zomato and let's say housing.com, folks like that, who would basically say that, can you just go to a restaurant, click the photo of the menu, like collect some of that information. And yeah, so I mean, that's how it started. And then
So how did you get your first few clients? Like you had this theme of decentralization of work, which is also called the gig economy. Uh, so you had this theme in your mind that you want to build a platform. You had previously built that tech volunteering platform where people could come volunteer skills to NGOs. So you had some exposure to that space. But you could have done something for tech. You could have done something. I mean, there were so many options. How did you land on this specific problem statement of helping companies like Zomato to go collect data from restaurants through an army of gig workers?
right. No, man, I think great question. And I think uh, couple of thoughts right here. I think first thing that we did, uh, which probably was a good thing in the beginning, but definitely an advice to startups, is that we were horizontal in the beginning. So what I meant was, I used to literally tell people that, we have like this army of people and they can do anything. What do you have in mind, right? And then so data collection came up as a big thing in the beginning, but then there was also what we later evolved to. There's a lot of data tagging work for the AI world, which we are living in now, right? So, like for example, for a Snap deal, like, you have to tag what kind of collar is this, etc. Right? So that you are basically training AI models. So that actually became like a very big thing for us in the beginning. But yeah, just to wrap that point, I think when we started as an horizontal, uh, first thing that we learned is that being an horizontal is actually not very valuable, right? I think, like for example, maybe if you're the first one ever, right? Like for example, Craigslist made sense, right? But I think if Craigslist is already there, and also if you think, of course, it's a great different kind of venture, but obviously Airbnb is a much larger business than Craigslist, right? So I think that's the beauty of vertical, which I got to really appreciate. That I think if you focus on a vertical, then I think you can go really deep, right? And you can create really superior outcome for demand and for supply that in a marketplace like that. And I think that's where the real value exists also, because what I realize is ki yaar, in a world of 10 billion people just saying that, I'll give you 1,000 people has no value ultimately, right? I think values that how can you actually create a very deep platform that actually creates like a 10x outcome overall for everyone involved. uh, yeah, so I think in this then I think the two use cases that came up was this offline thing, and the online, like this kind of data tagging stuff. And online was a little bit more interesting because we could get demand all across the world and not just India in the beginning. And
And this was mostly driven by e-commerce, like as retailing is moving online. So you need the catalog to have more information so that it is searchable. Like if I want a 14-inch monitor laptop, then all laptops on that e-commerce site need to have that tag that this is 13 inches, 14 inches, whatever, so that it is easier to find, recommend, etc. um,
yeah, and a lot of unstructured stuff, right? See, I think the 14-inch example, that is kind of easier to do because it's structured data, right? So when the catalog comes, you will automatically structure it. There was a lot of unstructured data which was not automatically written, like the kind of collar type, etc. Like the whole fashion category that was not structured data. Or like even like very interesting problems we solved. I remember, like for example, what is it that someone would search as, right? Like for example, AirPod we were talking about. So people, so let's say even if a e-commerce web, so like a lot of people might actually call earphones as pods, right? So how would the
Yeah.
platform
AirPod is
learn
a
that?
fairly generic term. Yeah.
Exactly. So the idea is that you actually then tag data that, okay, this kind of, like if someone's searching for pod, that actually means that they're trying to get a earphone, right? So yeah. So I mean everything, man. Like there's so much structuring of data from e-commerce to like driverless cars. You have to figure out, like, label the roads, that where is it okay to go, not go, uh, which we so yeah, I think that market also we were able to. You're absolutely correct. So we did work with a lot of e-commerce marketplaces and started growing very fast. But I think when the whole e-commerce bust happened globally, so we scaled up globally as well. And in some level we had a snap deal of almost every country. Like we had in Japan, we had in bunch of companies in the US. We still have many of them actually as customers, and Europe, everywhere, right? But then I think the e-commerce, like what we saw in India, I think that similar kind of impact happened everywhere. Uh, and in this period, interestingly, what happened is Myntra, which was one of our customers, they told us, ki, yaar, if you guys are doing all of this data stuff, do you know this whole in market, what is it called? Do you know this market is called BPO market? And you know what's the much bigger market within BPO? The calling thing, right? That people need to actually call a lot, and there's a lot of this operational calling we need to do in Mintra. Like if someone is not accepting a product, and there's an RTO type call that goes.
Right.
So they
Customer
actually.
service, basically.
Exactly. Customer service, operational issues, right? And so they actually told us that, why, I mean, you guys have this decentralized talent, and then why don't you do that, right? And I think, and then we honestly just started that as a so early day. We were also very inspired by that Google's 20% weekend thing, right? That in weekend you can hack something. So this just came up. So we just said, okay, let's just hack it for fun, and then we did it, and then some people started using it, and then we put a PM on it, and it was literally just like one person running, and it was growing really nicely. uh, I
Which
think
year was
what
this when you
happened.
launched calling?
So we launched that around 2018,
Okay.
and And
So
it was
by
really not
2018, you had already raised 2 rounds. I think your angel round, you had Dipinder Goyal also there. I guess once Zomato became a
right.
customer, he must have been impressed enough to
Correct, correct,
come
correct,
on
correct. So
board.
Dipinder, so we were very grateful, Akshay, that we had Dipinder, we have, I should say, sorry, we have Amit Ranjan, who is the founder of SlideShare, which I deeply respect. I mean, imagine, man, that time, I mean, like no one. I mean, we still are debating can Indians build a product globally, right? And I don't know how we will still know that SlideShare was created by a group of some of the smartest talent in the world, right?
Yeah, and LinkedIn
Then
acquired. Yeah.
correct, correct. LinkedIn acquired SlideShare,
Hmm.
then we
Anyone
had
who's done an MBA in a certain era would have come across SlideShare because you're looking
yeah. I
for
mean,
decks for
everyone,
your
dude. I think I'm sure
project.
everyone
Yeah.
they kind of invented the term of content marketing and
UGC,
so
user generated content. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So
Hmm.
yeah, and then we had Rohit. We have Rohit Kunal from Snapdeal.
They
We
also must have
have
been customers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Snapdeal was actually our largest customer at that period, and yeah, and then even Infosys founders, we were grateful to get. So yeah, so lots of founders supported us in this journey. And to be very honest, when I think it was so early, I sometimes think that that whole period of startups and this period of startups is very interesting and shows the growth of India as well, right? But now I think, thankfully, I think the startup. Thing with a lot of respect. And anyway, so we also evolved a lot in this phase. And I would say so. I mean, that is all. I would still consider everything 2020, pre 2020. Actually, if you see my LinkedIn, I think that's like Squadrun journey. We did that journey. We're of course grateful to have an amazing team and amazing group of investors that continue to support us. But for me, that was really like the past. What we've been doing since 2020 is so this.
Let's start from the
Yeah.
calling. So you, Myntra
Right.
told you that the bigger what you're doing is BPO work, and the bigger pie there is calling. And so you started a feature in it in which one question though before we come to this calling feature, um, you're building a like you're aggregating supply and selling it to corporates in a way. um, so was it a bigger challenge for you to get demand, which is like corporates who want to outsource work, or was it a bigger challenge for you to build supply, which is people who want to do these gigs?
Right. It's a really great question. Uh, I think it changes, right? I think it keeps changing, right? Especially in this kind of uh, PMF journey or where your market only is changing so rapidly. So I think in the very beginning it was supply. Was a little bit hard just to figure out how to even engage supply. And I think a very good, I would still say, a principle of within PMF is this concept of MVP, minimum viable product, right? And I think we have one of the best examples of that. Uh, 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 that you typically say that for launching a product, you should actually not launch a product, basically, right? So I think what we did was we basically got a lot of at that time college students to use the platform, and the platform was basically just a landing page where you sign up, and then once you sign up, and this is again back in the day, there were not even WhatsApp groups, man. So we basically created a Gmail group, a Google group, right? So it would essentially give you, but we did gamify that. Well, we did whatever we wanted to do in an app, basically. So you have to, but in a terrible experience. Like you're basically using your standard Google tool. So you go somewhere, then you have to at that place, like take a pin in your maps and then upload it, etc. So we ran the whole workflow without writing a single line of code, right? And I think, and for like 2 3 weeks, and I think what we learned was really a gold mine, right? Like I give you one simple learning. So one of the biggest thing we learned is that people were very happy, like very enthusiastic to accept a job, but only 1% is enthusiastic to do the job, right? Because there's really no in some level, I think people procrastinate, etc., right? Because there's nothing to lose. And that's a huge problem, right? Because I cannot manage capacity like that. I cannot assume 100 people will do it and 1% does it. So this led to us. giving birth to a feature of life in our app, right? Because we said that if there's nothing to lose, then how do I solve this? So when you come to a platform, we'll basically give you three lives. And then, so if you take a job and you don't do it, then you lose a life, right? So, so, so things like that. I think that would have been a great lesson in building an MVP and not really going writing any code and actually learning.
But these college kids, how were they discovered? Was it pure viral word of mouth that okay, you can make money, you can make pocket money here, or were you also like Facebook ads and all?
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I mean, it was all just hustle on ground. Like, yeah, you can make college money. I think we were in Delhi, so we went to Delhi University and, did some of that. But I should tell you there also. So we started with college students, but somehow the homemaker segment found us, right? And then we also learned that gig is not very valuable, in my opinion. What I mean is, gig is where there's a lot of volume of people and they're just trying to do something to pass time, right? And that's why or probably this is just my own definition, that decentralization I believe is a lot more valuable, because you actually figure out supply that and you're very clear that this is very serious work, right? This is not something you just like do to pass time, which again depends on the category of demand. But in my opinion, again, with the verticalization thought process, I would say that it's much better. Like, it is, the value can only be created when you have supply that is extremely serious about the platform that they are doing, and it really matters to them, right? So we actually in this journey
A
we
platform becomes their source of livelihood, basically.
exactly livelihood or anything, but it has to be very significant, right? Like, so I'll tell you like our story, right? So we basically sorry, I would say the homemaker persona, they found us, right? Through all this, and we used to see this college kid kind of like really like a garbage I would say retention we had right? They would just come, earn enough, I guess, probably the back end did the party, and then they're out. But then we saw this segment of homemakers who are like just coming, and then I'll tell you story. I mean, we have now 10,000 stories like that today, but like say someone who's working in a IT job and very good like education, etc., and then let's say she gets married and moves to Ludhiana, because the partner now has a business in Ludhiana, etc. So what do you do, right? And there's literally nothing to do. And in outside like the four cities in India, I think it is impossible to find a job that pays more than 10,000 rupees, right? Half of India makes 5,000 rupees a month, right? So it's really and I keep thinking more and more that how can AI and tech always be an enabler to create more and more opportunities for people, uh, and solve for equity in a way, make the world more equitable. But yeah, and then of course there were single moms, there were women, and so we have a girl from Kashmir who was affected, when there were a lot of challenges there, and since then, at that time especially, like she was supporting like a huge as like a family of almost 20 people just by working in the platform, and she's been financially independent since then. So yeah, so amazingly like beautiful stories, and in fact, I think especially in supply, my biggest learning is that, to be honest, we almost had zero people in our company for a really long time managing supply, right? It was such a self-managed platform, so community driven. No one would do fraud because people are really like, trying to create value. We would create groups, people would help each other. So I think if you find a right kind of segment of supply, I think they'll build a platform because the value prop resonates with them very hard. In fact, we've been grateful that we are 250 people as a team now, and I think almost 20 people in our team, including some really senior product people, you won't believe, are these ex homemakers, right? Like, in fact, in fact, the lady who leads our supply now is also like one of our ex platform people, right? So anyway, so that's how the whole supply journey happened.
Hmm. Okay. And typically, what was your take rate? Like, if a company paid 100 rupees for a job, how much would you keep and how much would go to the gig worker?
Right. So we were We were not actually such an open platform. What I mean is that we were because we were deeply verticalized as a solution. Uh, it was not just that someone would say that, I want one person to be hired to start doing my calling and do 100 calls, and I'll pay 300 rupees, and then we take 20% or whatever, right? It was a little different, and that's again my learning on the demand side, which I'll quickly tell you. So, see, I think one of my favorite things that one of the leaders of a bank told me, Ki yaar Apurv, I love your technology, I love your mission, I love your AI demos, but I'll tell you a secret, right? That no one cares if it's AI, if it's a monkey, if it's like someone, if it's Elon Musk calling. No one cares. What we care is if you're doing sales, there's a metric called cost of acquisition, right? CAC. How much are you optimizing that? If you're doing support, there's a metric called CSAT, right? And cost per resolution. What are you creating a 10x delta for me, right? And that, I think I love that how enterprises have to be ruthless around it, right? And I think we will come much later, but I would love to talk about the 95% failure rate, etc. as well. But enterprises need outcomes, right? They are ultimately, I mean, they're public companies. We as shareholders, are asking them that, okay, whatever you're doing, show me the metrics of growth, right? So we were very clear that our demand is enterprises, so they need services, right? And they need solutions. They're not going to figure it out, and so we built a managed platform. So again, platform marketplaces can be very various kind, right? Super thin marketplace like a Craigslist, which is just a directory, or you can be like a much thicker marketplace, where you go very deep on that vertical and solve the problem. So as a simple example, when we finally understood that the biggest use case is this communication problem that an enterprise has with their customers. It could be around sales, it could be collections, it could be support service. Now, one big part, of course, of that is the supply, or people actually making those phone calls and talking correctly, etc., which is fine. But a very big stakeholder we understood here is that the enterprise whose end customer, let's say, is Akshay, who's now trying to buy an insurance from Tata AIG, is Akshay, right? And then when we saw this problem, then we realized that it's actually not a lot of people are thinking about how do we improve the lead in all of this. So supply demand, and we always have our roadmap as like, what about the end person, end buyer, right? What about the lead? Uh, how do we improve their experience significantly, right? So right from the beginning, and in fact, that was I would say one of the first, let's say 10x things that we did in the beginning, that everyone, like the whole traditional BPO was very simple, that like bunch of people sitting in a huge ass office will just like dial and like just repeat the scripts, right? So uh, uh, but one of the most important things we realized that, okay, Apurv, Akshay, Apurv's mom, very different people. All three of us, by the way, get completely different ads of the same product on Facebook. Marketing became programmatic, right? Like maybe 2 decades back. Now, but all this communication, like sales, service, it is still very much same as, like, I think what it was 100 years back. It's the same thing, same thing. Why? Like, if my mom is seeing a different ad than Apoor, then why are we not doing a different level of communication channel, right? Maybe as an example, if someone calls me right now and I really want to buy that product or service, I'm not going to pick it up, right? But maybe if you set up, like if you reach out to me on WhatsApp and then and set up a time with me in the evening, then I would be a very good candidate for that. So lead. So how do we drive much better end buyer experience, lead personalization? So we built so much tech on that. In fact, we are the leaders in that side of the tech globally, because a lot of this thinking has happened on the enterprise side. That as an enterprise, if I want to sell to a Tata, then how do I write email in a beautiful way? How does, like, they call it, the whole term called account based marketing there, right? But no one has thought about it in the consumer world, right? That if an end consumer is looking to buy, there is a lot of intelligence and personalization that we should try and drive through tech. And again, we'll come back on this in the world of AI, but I think so that's what I wanted to tell you, that the platform basically became very thick, right? Where the platform's outcome or the job was to drive those superior outcomes for our enterprise partners. Of course, a huge part of that was the was or is our callers and their quality and all the tech that we have built to also manage their life cycle.
Hmm. Interesting. So
Yeah.
essentially, you're not charging per task, but you're charging per outcome, like per sale made rather than per call done.
No, so our business model was per minute of interaction, plus plus some kicker on per sale also. But that's also so I'll tell you why that is was disruptive, because traditionally the model was per seat, right? Which means you're just paying for I don't know what, right? Just like you're just basically paying for unproductivity as well, right? Like so, then you are then so you basically buy these seats, and then you're not sleeping at night thinking, oh, what are they doing? Well, what is happening? Is it productive or not? So we said, you know what? Main outcome for you, main output for you, sorry, I should say, is if I'm driving high quality conversations, and so that's what you pay for, and then there's also a cut that we get on the final outcome. Um, so that it works for both service and sales type use cases.
Interesting. I remember there was a time when telcos had migrated from per minute pricing to per second pricing. Something like that had happened, and uh, yeah, that was when the price of a minute mattered.
Yeah, man. I remember that pre WhatsApp. We used to all in SMS. We used to be super creative with our acronyms
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because
yeah,
every letter mattered.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, how did Myntra saying do customer service migrate or evolve into you selling insurance policies?
Right. Yeah, I think so very interesting thing that happened in all of this is also been COVID. Right. I think so what happened was that what I was telling you, so yeah, this was, to be honest, this was a side team that we did not even get valuation for, right, when we raised our round. And
Which round are
uh,
you talking about here?
the Series A round also. So even after the seed round,
Hmm. You did a
like this
Series A in
was, sorry,
2020.
the seed round, sorry, the Bloom round,
Okay,
and
okay, 2017 round.
yeah. So this was considered a
2017, you
side
were
thing.
still doing
Correct,
data
correct, correct.
categorization or data
Yeah, and
curation,
we are
right?
fairly large, and we still, by the way, do that. That's a huge part of our platform.
Hmm.
Uh,
What was your revenue then in 2017?
So 2017 we would be like I think 2017 would be 5 crore annual revenue, and then 2018 we would be like 10 crore, 10 12 crores type revenue. Yeah. So fairly decent. That's what I'm saying. Like it was fairly decent, and uh, and we had also cracked the US, right? The holy grail for all the founders building B2B. And yeah, and I remember I was in the US when Trump won, etc. So I remember like all of that period, like we were in the US selling very hard, and we were becoming hot also, but yeah, I mean, a lot of that revenue crashed also, man, because I think whatever happened with Snapdeal, I think a lot of these marketplaces were honestly maybe they were overfunded. I don't know, all over the world, right? So, but yeah, I think we were just.
Plus,
I
technology would have also automated a lot of what you needed humans for, right?
No, so I think that way that was not a problem, because we were actually so we were automating it ourselves also. So we basically started providing a service that we will basically do the automation. So you're basically we're reducing your cost significantly. So you can give us more scale, and we would start doing more complex things also. So I think that was not a problem. I think this is the lesson I'll tell you. So this was the biggest lesson I learned, where I think as a much more younger uh, founder with lesser experience, I would say, wisdom, I would say probably, right? I think is that yaar, ki I used to say ki, great founders and teams build markets, right? To be honest, I think it's foolish. I think anyone who says that,
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is greater than market, right? I'll tell you why. Because market is nature. And so I'll use a example to explain this. Uh, I remember with a team member, we were in the uh, we were basically he was in my home and we were discussing this, and he essentially was smoking a cigarette. Okay, and when he was smoking the cigarette, so basically it was in the home. So we were in the window cell essentially, right? And I think the air was essentially coming in this direction, and then he was essentially not wanting obviously the smoke to come in the house, so he was essentially smoking really hard, right? Like he was pushing it very hard that it goes out, but it just wouldn't, right? Because the air is like coming with all force, it was coming inside.
Hmm.
And I told him, dude, this is market.
Hmm.
I'll never forget this example. I think the best example for me to understand. And I think anyone who says, I would say, okay, jump in the ocean and change the tides, right? Like, come on, man. Like, you cannot fight with nature. And market is exactly nature, right? And you have to respect nature. As humans, I think we have to figure out how to integrate with nature. Nature doesn't have to integrate with us. Right? We keep saying world is gonna die. World is not gonna die. We will die. World will be still here, and nature heals very quickly, right? So it's the very same respect you have to honestly give the market, and that is when I understood that not understanding the market really well is a very big mistake, and I think you should really follow the market correctly, and that's where again comes back to your product market fit, and that not only the market. I think having a very large market is just so much more easier, and I truly now understand why when VCs, would always be very bullish only on a market that is at least $1 billion or more, etc. Right? I think I truly understand that because what I've seen is that, uh, and my golden rule is simple. I think have a market, ideally $10 billion, bare minimum $1 billion, and then have a 10x offering. Right?
Hmm.
If you have these two things, nothing can stop you. And that is where then that PMF thing happens. What I was telling you, right? I think
Hmm.
that then people are banging on your door because you have a 10x offering, and because the market is so large, there are so many people, right? So I think either, and that is why the PMF keeps changing, right? Because your market is also evolving, and what is your offering truly 10x today, right? Like if you again let's think of actually Google, right? Like Google search. I mean, who would have thought in our lifetime that Google search will not be a 10x product? Suddenly, like Gen AI came in, and then everyone said, "Oh wow, why will I use search now?" Right? I don't want information; I want knowledge now. So everyone then and then of course Google responded so strongly, right? But so suddenly a 10x product overnight was not a 10x product. So I think that is a beautiful example of again PMF, and I think we also learned this the hard way that I think the mistake we made, we were 10x product in a very tiny market which was also shrinking in general, and there was a lot of consolidation that happened in these marketplaces, and I think that's a bad place to be. Uh,
But customer service also is a large market, right? Though you are more sales focused than customer service focused. So, what made that change happen?
Yeah. So the change that happened essentially was, I think, so we were a little bit clear that this business is not becoming very large, and we are actually seeing like our customers run out of business basically, and so I think we ourselves at that time were also profitable. I remember, and it was really nice to be like that, but all our customers were massively not profitable, and and they were running out of basically this VC money, right? So we said, okay, we have to figure out something, and then we knew this calling thing is there on the side, and I was looking at very deeply that, okay, what's happening, what can we do here, and then I mean, sorry, I was going to say thankfully COVID happened, but of course, not, I mean, I think
No, I
change,
mean,
right?
a lot of founders feel similarly that thankfully COVID happened to help them find a market or PMF. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I think it was just like change happens, I think, right? And the only constant is change. And then yeah, and I think that was a huge acceleration, because before this, like, we couldn't crack the large enterprises of India. I think the larger
But
enterprises.
by 2020, what were you doing? You were doing that e-commerce data business, and you were doing customer service.
Correct. And we were still doing our calling based stuff. And the calling based stuff had also come to a decently large scale, mostly working with large startups. And I think rather than one, we would have probably a 15 people team there. And they were super profitable, just like, but no one, well, it was not very serious in some level for the whole company. Like the in board would never care about it. It was just like one of the things we were doing.
Okay, okay, okay. Like for Myntra, this whole thing of shipping and returns and all that is just a thing they have to do to. It's like a hygiene factor for them, and so
Correct,
which
correct,
is why
correct.
you would be like a vendor who's good to have, not a must-have vendor for them.
Yeah. And I think, or we were also not very, I think we were just, we never got that. Yeah, and I think what you said is a great point, right? I think that was my biggest issue. That when uh, because when I was seeing this, right, I think as these companies were running out of money, the first thing they wanted to also cut was basically cost, right? And so I was very curious that, okay, uh, that what can make more money for enterprises. And I think that's when, coincidentally, so two three things happened. I think one is that the platform started getting discovered by some of these fintech companies, and they started calling me कि यार, Apurv, we love this decentralization thought process, because there's this aspect that as soon as the lead comes, you have to quickly call them, and you have to scale up and down with volume. I can't hire 100 people as a fixed asset, etc. And I asked him, okay, how much are you paying, and how much are you willing to pay? Then very interestingly, they said that we don't care how much we are paying here. What we care more about is the value that we can get, because it's more about sales, right? So I don't want to lose one sale also. And that was very, very interesting. That, okay, wow. And the second call, I think, insight we got is suddenly enterprises who were so all the enterprises started calling us. Oh, that, I mean, and earlier they used to look at us that we are like, I don't know, we're nuts or something. We're saying that, suddenly, like, tech will be there and people will be remote, and they were like, what are you saying, man? And now they're
That
all
that
calling us
decentralized workforce became the new
exactly.
normal.
Exactly. And honestly, for good reason, right? No one wants that all the banking data is sitting in some house in Vijayawada or whatever, right? So, but then the thing is, ki, honestly, tech had solved all of that problem, and we had proven to people that, it's actually more secure than any of your contact center where people are just taking out pen drive, etc. Right? Uh, so I think people really understood that, and I think this whole thing was a more of a mindset issue, right? I think more than logical issue. And I think when people started seeing that remote is the only option that time, so they had to figure it out. And then we were the only ones who were actually ready with large scale tech, etc., compliances. So yeah, we got a lot of pull for both our for the sales use case, service, etc., and the remote also. And that's when we knew, okay, that this is actually much more interesting than everything else we are doing. And in fact, uh, at that time, I had actually moved to the Bay Area as well, and then I came back. So and the golden rule is that if an Indian startup can somehow ever figure out more than a million ARR from US, then that's like the best thing possible. And then you move there, and then you build. So we were doing all that. We were very clear, but again, like, no one thought, no one planned for COVID, right?
Mhm.
And this happened, and suddenly, like, this became very interesting, and so I moved back immediately. And actually, I was already kind of stuck in India that time.
This calling thing wouldn't have worked for US, right? Because of accent.
No, so we were actually, so we did, so we were at that time trying the US, and we were in fact very big in real estate US there. But then the problem is that US completely paused, at least the US real estate paused for 6 months, and the cost base was so high that we couldn't figure it out. And to be very candid with you, I think we did struggle a little bit on the supply side US for sure, because I think it was just not. It's just very expensive also, and I think we did not have, like, we just had sales team there, right? And so like the quality that we were able to build, but I think we could have figured it out with enough time. I think we
I think
were
possibly US would have only happened if you also built supply in US. I doubt.
Yeah, no, we did. So that's something. So
Oh,
we
you
did
built
have
supply in
like
US.
probably
Okay.
30, 40 callers, and we had a very decent business in real estate, US, like millionaire plus, which I'm telling you. But I think that also paused basically. And yeah, so anyway,
What was your
but
ARR
then,
when COVID hit?
uh, yeah, I will have to
Single digit
remember.
million.
Yeah. That also got a lot of it basically disappeared as well. I remember that time as soon as COVID happened, I remember all of us founders were talking to each other, and the boards sent us scenarios, okay, and they would send us, okay, plan a scenario in which COVID will end in 3 months and plan a scenario in which COVID will end in 3 years. And like, dude, what are you saying, man? Like, we're startups. We don't even know what to do. And we can probably, of course, you can plan if COVID ends in 3 months, I will go all aggressive. I'll not touch anyone. If 3 years, I'll fire everyone other than me. Right. So it was really, really a funny time. But anyway, and like our whole world collapsed. But I think gave us so much opportunity. Suddenly, like large enterprise in India, like Kotak, Axis, Bajaj, those type of groups started working with us immediately. So I think that was a great uh, thing, and then we just basically like went all in, and that's when I would mark that. I would say that is when I said everything is that. Before that is just like gone pre.
That was like your first PMF in a way.
Yeah, no, but I think, see, that's the thing, Akshay, that's what I'm saying. I think PMF, it's a journey, right? Because all of these different things we did, we had, see, all of this,
Yeah,
I
you
think.
hit certain scale, you had PMF in a
Exactly,
way.
exactly, exactly, exactly. But that, I think that kind of door banging was not happening as much, right? I think continuously. I think that's the problem. You need that continuous door banging to keep happening. And I think then you know, okay, you continuously are doing the right thing. I think first we had a 10x product, but there were not enough people in the door, or they had other problems, or whatever reasons, right? But I think this is the first time we had both happening, right? I think we were customers who were loving what we are doing. We were a 10x offering, and yeah, and then we had a large market. So we said, okay, you know what, like, why should everyone go to the US? Because in India, I understand no one wants. I mean, it's hard to build a pure software business selling just in India, right? But I think the world of AI and marketplace type stuff, I think there you can really do that, because like for example, we make anywhere from $300,000 to $1 million to even $2 million with some customers. So it's like a lot of money that you can get from one customer, right? And if you can, let's say,
Because
even
now
if you can
your
get
TAM is their sales team spend. Like their what they would be
exactly,
paying to a BPO to run their outbound sales process. That is the TAM. So it's a much bigger TAM. It's not
exactly.
a software or
Sales.
a SaaS TAM.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So, like, I used to tell our, the sales people that we would interview that you make $200 a user, bro. I make 40,000 rupees a user, right? So yeah. So it was.
But what
So
was your distributed workforce of stay-at-home moms good enough for uh, for a Kotak Mahindra?
Yeah. So that was great. So it was absolutely good enough, and we scaled up more. And again, I should tell you that these are people who were working minimum half day. So they're either working minimum half day or full day, and some people are working average even 10 hours plus a day, right? So the minimum was that, and these were very serious people. They were completely, their livelihood was linked to us, or I mean, some places. I mean, there was something very, like, they would have basically been extremely upset, and there was no alternative if we would not be there, right? I think so there was a very significant kind of push there, and again we built a lot of tech to solve. So this was a great period where, in fact, when we get to our, so I would say, so in this like big PM first, like great PMF where we are like seeing this door banging, and in that time, the first act of that I would say is the Uber act in a way, right? Like you have decentralized workforce and you're working with enterprises doing very well. Uh, a part two of that act, to also answer your question, is that when we started working with some banks and certain processes, then there was an understanding that there are compliances for which you need people, or there's some part of the process that people are just not comfortable putting it outside a building. And that time we realized that the decentralization, we have just individuals, but we can actually add agencies to it as well. So like for example, in a Bhopal or Indore or in a Vijayawada, there are like people running small BPOs with 100, 500 people, 1,000 people. And I realized BPO is the cottage industry of India. Every street you go to, there's someone who's doing it. And then we realized that they are all like good people in a way, and they are really resourceful in how do they get the right kind of talent, and they make sure they work every day, etc. So we said, you know what, why should we build that capability, or how to find like a good office space and run the office space uh, in a city that none of us have ever visited, right? So we said, let's leverage them and add that to the network also. So we added agencies to the network as well. And that again was a huge, I would say that was a very big game changer that opened up a lot of the market that we couldn't also do. And yeah, and then the third act that has happened really, I'll tell you before that, is for this to happen, we needed to uh, we need, like, I couldn't tap Akshay and say ki bhai ye kar de, right? Because this is someone sitting in their own home and all over. So we had to build a lot of tech to understand, how do I screen the right people, how do I match them to right jobs, and most importantly, every interaction that you're doing, we were analyzing 100 things out of that, right? Like, okay, is this through this interaction, is this person like great and should they continue to do, or which, or let's say for Kotak, right? Like if someone said on the call that why are you why are you better than Axis, right? And then I have all of these callers, and of course they have probably even more callers doing callers. No one even knows what's the best answer, but there's a best answer, right? Someone is saying it, and we, of course, with data was seeing it. So now then we are also using that to pull up that best answer, spreading it to the network that okay, this is the right one. You should like practice this, etc. So I think using like what we call a co-pilot now, right? So we're the first AI co-pilot of this industry, where we built a lot of tech to manage, and that of course in luckily gave us kind of a lot of data. I think we have the best data globally. I don't know if anyone else would have, because we are the only full stack company globally. So there have been tech companies that are trying to do it, but adoption has been generally very less, right? So even the CRM adoption is like literally like 12% or something. So what will you do? Like the first lesson of AI is that AI goes through this journey where there's data, then it has to be 100 close to 100% captured, and then there has to be labeling, tagging, take insights out of it, and then you can build, of course, machine learning and agentic workflows, right? So I think by having like all of these people, we built like our own mobile app, like not using any CRM, in which the way they use the app, it was designed that you will do 100% data capture. So again, to be honest, I would love to say that we were so visionary at that time that we said 5 years back, that Sam Altman is going to change the world, and then and will be the best data company, and will build the best application. But we were just trying to do our job, man, and convince like all of these enterprises that even with tech we can manage these resources and no fraud, etc., can ever happen, and all of those things. And
So
and
every
yeah,
call would be recorded, transcribed,
yeah,
analyzed, and you were
absolutely.
probably using some cloud telephony instead of. like people calling
Correct.
from their phones. It would be a call through
Exactly.
their app with some cloud telephony service behind it,
Exactly. So super
which allowed you
secure,
to
like you'll never
record
get
and
the number. Absolutely, absolutely. And because so like this, like for example, like all the recordings, right? Now the recording need to be put to text. It's called speech to text, right? Now Google, etc., have been working on this for a while. But then we were not able to find accuracy at all because we realized no one talks in first of
one
all, even
language. Yeah,
one language. We
yeah, yeah,
speak in
yeah, yeah.
English, right?
Yeah, yeah, true, true, true.
And so
I
so
still
models,
struggle with that, and this podcast is getting transcribed real time. But when I look at
right,
the transcription, whatever you say in
right.
Hindi will be like in Roman, like best
Exactly. No,
guess.
so you should really use our speech to text tech for that. Happy to give you an API. But basically, build uh, all of these things like natively, then, right? Because then we're like, okay, how do I do? Like, I mean, people are speaking Hindi, English, and Tamil in the same conversation. So if you like, for example, let's say have someone who's in Chennai and talking to a caller, then you'll hear these three languages, right? And it's very natural. So we had to basically build all of this speech to text layer, etc., as well. And yeah, and I think that really opened up the I think, like, obviously it's incredible what Nvidia and some of these OpenAI, Google, etc., have been doing. And of course, the I think the most exciting thing that's probably happening in our lifetime till now is AI. And then we were just naturally placed for it, right? I think we were I would gen I I'm intentionally using the word lucky. I think that we definitely are. And yeah, so we were sitting on like this beautiful data sets. We have distribution with enterprises, and our positioning in the enterprises that they are the tech BPO, AI BPO, or something we used to call ourselves. And uh, and uh,
So once
uh,
you
yeah.
started this, uh, like the hybrid model where you had gig workers but also agencies, by that which year was that? 21, 22? Which year was that?
Yeah, that no, that was 22 to 24, basically.
Okay. And and you also raised a pretty big round in 22, I think 17.5 million.
Correct. So roughly 150 crores, correct. And Bertelsmann led that round along with Chirate and Bloom, who
What
are
was the
our
pitch there?
three. So the pitch was this only, right? I think what I gave you. So
Like
uh,
sales outcome as a service.
yeah. So we basically were positioning ourselves as talent marketplace for inside sales, right?
Hmm.
Because if I would use the word BPO, then I think all the VCs would have run away. But thankfully, Buttersman did not.
Asset light
So
BPO, right? Okay.
correct. But the BPO had such a bad connotation, Like, I think
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
used
yeah, yeah.
to, and I love, honestly, I'll tell you now, over time, what I told you about the nature of market, right? I love boring industries because boring industries that are especially so large, right? I mean, BPO market is so large, man. I mean, we talk about e-commerce market, etc. They own nothing. Like BPO literally, India has something like almost hundreds of thousands of people, like just domestically serving and talking and doing this work, right? And globally, it's $250 billion market, right? I mean, it's ridiculously large market, and yeah, and there was really no innovation. I mean, 5 years back when we came in, there was zero innovation, right? I mean, so I think we just saw the whole problem, and truly now in the world of AI, apart from the AI stuff, which we'll get back to later. But I think that, by the way, my biggest feature still is all the lead personalization, lead management, which is of course becoming 10x with AI. But even like basic things like how do you connect omni-channel, etc., are still like really really critical features, right? That help me versus anyone else who can build a voice bot or something like that, right? So
So, how does this personalization work? Suppose you onboard let's say, a fintech which is selling, let's say, loans. Okay, say loans to people who are salaried, and uh, so how would the person? They would give you data of leads, right? That these are people who have filled out some online form, have somewhere shown interest, or have downloaded our app or something like that, and call them and pitch the loan to them, right? So how would you personalize this?
Right. Let me tell you that actually in a different way, right? I think first, like, if I'm sure all of us had that experience that you will talk to a brand, you'll sign up in a brand, and let's say, and then you buy it, then also they will keep calling you, right?
Hmm.
And you will get so pissed off sometime, and you'll say, "Man, like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you killing me?" Right? It's not that they are bad people, or they're really trying to attack you personally. It's just bad systems. The systems
Yeah,
are not talking
data
to each other.
siloed. Yeah, the outbound
Exactly.
call center doesn't know who's already become a customer.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. In fact, we used to tell our enterprise customers, so there was this term called digital transformation, which became a very critical thing for enterprises to become much more digital friendly, right? And I used to say that your digital transformation goes to death at the contact center, right? Because there's really no data flows at all. And yeah, exactly. So I think so the problem is that these systems don't talk to each other. So the first step of that personalization journey was first, okay, let's map your customer journey, right? Because these are imagine like a decision tree that is like almost like 1,000 square feet, right? Like it's like a huge ass decision tree. So you will say that okay, this lead who has, let's say, as you said, like it's a salaried employee looking for this kind of loan. Okay, now in which step of the app were they in a mobile app? Are they your web platform? Are they in your like store where you give it? So where are they coming from? Which step are they in? Based on that step, what should you communicate to them? Which channel should you be using? Right. So I think there is still just like mapping out the whole journey properly itself is something that we do as a step one, right? That when we work in enterprise, so let's map and design a whole journey and actually put all of that in our platform. And like we have like this basically a journey builder where you can essentially create through logic trees, like, okay, if this happens, then we do this, etc. Right? So that still is, like, I would say, one of our biggest like 10x value props, where no one, I don't know why no one else has thought of this. uh,
And you also like are pulling real time data from your client.
Correct, correct. So there is deep API integration, and now, so first step, as you can understand, so personalization, I would try to say, is journey, right? So the first step was just like actually stop spamming people, right? Like actually have your systems all talk to each other and have a very seamless journey. Second step was, how do we make it intelligent, right? Okay, then based on certain behavior that this person has done, can we say that this person will prefer more of a WhatsApp versus call, etc.? And then based on the interaction I had, like each interaction gives me a data point, right? So based on that, I know more about the lead, and I can essentially keep like then now personalizing it as well, right? So that's step two. Step three, which we are entering right now and we've been doing a little bit, is hyper personalization, right? Where the whole, basically, it's a slightly complicated concept, but like think this whole tree is actually an LLM, right? So rather than a static tree, your models are actually determining that, okay, this is Akshay, this is where he is. Now when I'm talking to him, what should I tell him that he needs to hear, so that it works. So I can actually like I can, what I mean is that if I do, for Axis, if I'm doing 100,000 interactions a day, all of those interactions should be completely or highly different from each other, right? And that obviously can only happen when machine is doing the talking, which we are in the phase now, right? Where we are literally, I'll give you a simple example, like credit card also, right? Like if I'm trying to sell you credit card of Axis, and again, like in a legit way, you want to buy it, etc., then I'm not going to waste your time, as an example, telling you, I'll give you 100 rupees cash back, right? And
Yeah, or
versus I'll
like
probably tell you,
accidental insurance may not matter to me. Maybe a lounge access matters to me.
exactly, exactly. Again, international lounge access may be something that you care more about, that I need more, like I need actually like 30 times a year or whatever, right? So personalizing everything, like the script itself, the voice itself, the language, of course. Like even things like what we've done is that even if I'm speaking English, if someone is from the north, let's say Delhi, so the caller will be Delhi, or the voice you'll hear will be Delhi based. So we used to do this matching earlier, right? And then versus if you lead from Bangalore, let's say someone who is in Karnataka will talk to you. Even the same conversation. See, like just it's just basic human comfort, right? Like you feel better when you hear a voice which is more recognizable, who can pronounce Banerghatta Road properly, right? So now we've replicated the same thing in the world of AI, and we used to try some personalization, but it was still harder because see, humans are it's a little bit harder for them to say, okay, every call I'll start doing new things.
Yeah. You can't give a script for every call. They need a script which they can repeat. Yeah.
Correct.
Mm,
Exactly.
mm.
And then of course now with AI we are able to like change things in real time, and then the whole interaction is completely like new.
Okay, so 22 to 24, you had this period of agency plus gig workers. I'm just curious, did you start leaning more towards agencies? Because as you gave the example that from Uber model you went to Oyo model. Actually, the truth is even the Uber model today is fleet operators. Like very few cars on their network are driver-owned cars. It's mostly fleets who are providing them bulk of cars. So did you also see that happening? That more and more it's organized players you're working with instead of moms?
Right. No, yeah. So I think, I mean, yes and no, I should say, right? I think as an all, became, definitely we became a little lazier where we were like, oh, this is kind of very comfortable actually. You don't have to do, I mean,
Because
your
there
effort.
is somebody who has skin in the game to ensure quality, right? So
Exactly. And at some level you can, you know, I mean, a lot of problems. The control seems very seductive, to be honest, for sure,
hmm,
right? I think
hmm.
that, oh, actually, someone is sitting there and
So
whatever, right?
but why is
So
that a bad thing? It seems like you're not very excited about that.
no, I think it's a good thing, and I think it works really well. I think why remote is still very exciting. I'll tell you where we saw that. See, ultimately the problem with contact centers, especially like, and that's why I really I think I am very passionately against this thought process where every BFSI company wants a center in Bombay just because it's easier for them to travel, right? But I'm like, yeah, who cares in some level about me or you, right? What we should care about is the end customer. And for them, the second stakeholder should care about is that agent in some level, right? So see someone
Hmm,
who's so I think it's a terrible idea in general. I feel so, right? Ki if you think about it's a broken model, like someone who's in Delhi or Bombay, and this kind of salaries that they get, and they have, of course, these are like hungry, ambitious people who are educated, who've moved cities, and then they're working in this kind of job where unfortunately it's still not treated really well, and culturally it's not the most exciting thing, and then you're also like traveling on average on a Bombay, like used to have a center there also. I remember, like, I spoke to people and they were traveling like 5-6 hours a day, man. Like, dude, this is crazy, like this is just insane, right? So I am a much bigger see, end of the day, it's like about people should be fundamentally happy, right? So I think so, I mean, my goal has been that how do we move a lot of this to tier two, tier three, tier cities, because we see so much more success with, I think, this Bhopal, Indore type places. At least people are just happy. Fundamentally, they're happy, right? And I think the second thing that I think why remote has been incredible is because I'll give you so some of my partners are very passionate about this. I love it now, and the market is changing, right? Where even so, in fact, one of our enterprise partners said this a beautiful thing. He said, "Ki, dude, I have a 21-year-old guy basically selling average 40 to 50-year-olds that why life insurance, you should buy life insurance because you're going to die. What's going to happen to your family?"
hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what does a 21-year-old boy even
Yeah,
know
they don't have
about life?
empathy for, yeah.
Yeah, or like how can they explain, like how can you, I mean, you're basically like abusing them, ki you have to sell like this much every day. I mean what will they know, man? So and I think this is a great broader change we are also seeing, where even the enterprises really have started caring about customer experience more and more, also because you have to understand an average Indian today, I think is probably 28 or something, right? So So it's crazy, man. I mean every Indian is sort of now, an average Indian is basically born in the world. Even if they were not, let's say, super financially affluent, they still are born in the world of internet and using Google, etc., from the beginning, right? So like it's very unlike like our parents who felt happy to wait all day out in a queue in a bank to just put their money, right? So this is not at all. I mean, like today, people. I mean, I say to my customers that it takes a click to get a date. They're not going to wait for 5 days to get your refund, right? So, and this is your customer, right? So I think people are also understanding that. So coming back, so I think remote, in my opinion, that's a very interesting again topic. If you get time, we can discuss. Is see how does our world change? I think with AI doing more and more, and I think the way it changes is by actually being able to pay the humans who are doing the job much more money, so you can actually make it a truly valuable career for them long term. Because see, this is a transitionary career otherwise, right? Like people just want to do it 2 3 years to figure out what they want to do. Uh, Versus in remote, the beauty I think is that we are able to get segment that wants to just do this, right? And then you are actually getting really really high quality people. A lot of these people are much more empathetic, etc. So I think, so that I think just creation of that advisor type supply versus just like pushy people reps, right? I think that is truly like something that is happening. So I genuinely believe that the best solution is going to be the combination of this Uber, Oyo, and AI together, right? I think if you can have a platform where all of these three exist together and they use the strengths of each other, I think that's where the magic really will happen.
Okay, interesting. What's your ARR now?
Yeah, so I think that would be hard to disclose, yeah, but like
Or
fairly
last
very
year's
good.
ARR? I mean, just for
Uh,
context, like in
Right, right.
2020
So,
when COVID hit, you were
right,
single
right.
digit.
So, yeah, yeah. So, okay. So, a little bit older, I can tell you, we were basically at roughly 200 crore annual revenue run rate. But
Okay,
yeah, we've grown very well from there.
okay, okay.
And it's
So
still bit, we are a
you're
private
like
company,
in
man. So,
double digit
not,
under 50 million ARR kind of.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Correct.
amazing. And this is all India revenue.
It's all India revenue, man. And we, as I told you, we have like, anywhere from, when people are paying, so our average, if I have to say, average ACV would be like $500,000. And even in the world of AI, of course, the ACVs are very decent. And I think we are seeing this crazy phase where, uh, should we just get to now the AI side of things, like what has been
One
happening?
last question I want to ask you.
Sure.
So what's your margin profile like? How much of your revenue is shared with the the gig workers or the agencies?
Yeah, so again, like it would be hard to share,
Like just
Abhi.
like double digit teens or like
No,
40
it's very
plus?
healthy. So what I can tell you is ki yaar, even so traditional BPOs have like really terrible. Unfortunately, they have like like not even single digit actually. I mean single digit, but like really the early single digit type margins, right? And that is. But I think the great thing about us, and actually let me answer this question in a very good way. See, if you look at the unit economics of a BPO, if at 100, right, if they're making 100 rupees, and you think that margin is so low, you would assume that all of this is going in paying the people. But that's not true actually. So in that 100, 30% would go on paying the people who are doing the job, right? Then literally almost 50% type would be just management layers, because every 20 callers would need a trainer, a QA, a manager, I think five roles basically for every 20. And then that organization of course becomes very bloated. So for a teleperformance concentrics, like for example, even when they are charging like very good, like much more 50% to 100% higher than market, then also the margins are very very thin, because it's very hard to in that kind of ops heavy structure, it's very hard to make any margin. The superpower for us has been that we uh, from the beginning, because of our remote DNA, tech DNA, we have automated all the supervision from the beginning. So that is really enabling us to have almost like basically we've eliminated that whole layer, right? So we actually pay our people more than what they would get anywhere else, and but we still have like very good margins compared to BPO because there's no supervision layer. Basically, there's no loss of margin, right?
Hmm. There's no rental, like all of that is your margin opportunity. The rent, the supervision cost, the management layer, all that is your margin opportunity. Fascinating. Okay, so now I'm wondering, does AI replace gig workers?
Yeah, I mean, the honest thing is, ki, yeah, if you look at actually, I'll take a step back. Let me tell you a little bit about what the AI thing is doing right now and what's happening. Right, I think what is very interesting. It's actually very very interesting, and I've been, of course, building for a long time, as we spoke about, and I have actually definitely never seen anything this exciting truly in every way possible. What I mean is, I think the kind of excitement that we see in enterprises to adopt it, the velocity with which things are moving. Like we're literally seeing, sales cycles shrink from 12 months to 2 months, 1 month also in certain places, same organizations. Because I'll tell you why, right? I think you do a demo.
The product they are buying is a different product. Like you have a separate product of human telecallers and a separate product of AI callers.
No, so what we've done is we do have two offerings. That said, the first offering is basically where we are doing a combination of AI and human together in one workflow. So what that means is that insurance example we said, right? So the actual insurance sale today, because of IRDA guidelines, plus the complexity of that interaction, that needs that advisor, right, who's sitting and highly trained on that company. Not just trained, they're actually certified by RDA for that company to sell insurance. So they of course still very much stay, but anything before pre-sales and post-sales, right, like which means qualifying the leads, or after sale, like collecting your medical information type stuff, scheduling a medical test, getting payments, getting you onboarded, all of that AI can do really well. And that again is a huge superpower as an offering, because again we're globally unique in this way to be able to do it. Because what's also happening is a lot of enterprises who are trying to adopt this, and they have some AI vendor. I with love and joke say in Bangalore who never seen a call center, right? And then they have some call center who of course hates like tech because their billing is going down, and the enterprise in the middle, right? So it's like they're all hating each other, and the end customer is basically getting abused. Because it's all one motivation, we are aligned on one CAC metric. So that becomes very powerful offering, that human and AI is in one place. The second thing we are seeing is AI native workflows as well, where AI is able to completely do the work, and that is where I think I'll tell you, I'll step up actually overall, right? I think what's happening with AI, I feel that there is this tipping point or inflection point, right, where it truly blows up. And what I think that tipping point is when AI, for whatever category we think about, from first it starts with Copilot, which is all very nice, but it's not really going to change the world, right? Then it starts with that, okay, it is doing now suddenly like few percent, like, and you can see it will at some point do something where it can start doing a big chunk of the work as humans are doing, and it's very critical that it has to deliver the same outcome. See, no work, in my opinion, will get automated which is going to be inferiorly done by AI in an outcome, right? Like for example, we're not ever going to write content from ChatGPT if it is like terribly written, right? So I think that is where the inflection point for every category is, that as soon as you cross the point where AI suddenly starts delivering same or better outcomes than human. Obviously, it happens at 5x, 10x lower cost because of the cost structure, efficiency structures, and all of that, right? But I think even if it's way cheaper, etc., but if it's gonna do one lesser sale, or it's gonna be great, just that like 5% of your customers are gonna be so pissed off that they're gonna abuse you all day on Twitter, right? Those things don't work, right? These are enterprises especially. So I think that especially like how the crossing the chasm is, right? I think that inflection point in AI is getting hit. And I feel very proud, and that I think we have really hit that inflection point in India for our category. We are anyway, from whatever I understand, and I think I'm fairly informed here, that we are the largest scale company in this category, and in terms of volume or brands or scale or everything, right? So, but I think we've been again like sitting on this, experimenting with our clients and seeing the excitement of AI. But I think what has truly changed is, I think a lot of the engineering stuff that we've done is also really great. Uh, but yeah, but basically that's the inflection point, right? And I think there are a lot of, I'll give you examples. So we have actually cloned our lot of our callers, right? And I think in the mark, when you spoke to our team, I think you heard some of those recordings also, right? So and and so it's indistinguishable, right? You just cannot say what is AI, what is human, across languages, across emotions. And that is when it truly, I think, becomes very powerful. So I think that has happened first. Second, now coming back to our discussion, so yeah, the offering is, one is hybrid, the other one is AI native. And now, what is interesting is that because we've hit this inflection point, we are definitely seeing that AI is replacing a lot of the workflows fully, right? So, like, and it's happening industry by industry, right? Or complexity by complexity, you can say. So, we, like, the first, as an example, e-commerce, marketplaces, logistics is a very big industry for us. So we work with like a delivery to Zepto, Wheelseye, so a bunch of these companies who are a lot of marketplace companies, e-commerce companies, etc. Right? So in all of them, because I think their use cases are this way, or their DNA is also like low margin, etc. We have seen that we've been able to actually automate all of the workflows fully, right? Because these are not very complicated interactions. But the extreme end of this is education and insurance, right? Where, as I told you, you are looking at advisor. In education, we actually have our advisors do video calls, right, and demos and stuff. So I think it's that spectrum where I believe that, and we've been seeing literally that every quarter, 10% of market has shifted to full AI native, right? And we are actually sitting right now in the center where we are more of a 50-50, where 50% of the market or workflows can be fully AI native, and the rest 50% may, to be honest, I can say the next 30% there, I believe will happen. I mean, I, of course, have to be more optimistic and audacious. So I believe it will happen in the next 3 to 6 months. But let's say if we have a more pessimistic view, then it could happen in 1 to 2 years also. But yeah, so I believe that overall market, like forget SquadStack, I think you will only need 20% humans for the workflows we are doing today. And
So
so
basically,
that's how I
this
see that evolving.
low end calling, like logistics and shipping and all of this complaint
Yeah.
resolution kind of calling, will be 80%
Support,
replaced by
all
AI.
this soft collection buckets. Like, I'll give you very interesting. Collection is an interesting problem in for contact centers because it's very basic calling, right? But even it's so complicated because, why? Because human emotions come in, right? So because, see, collection is a sensitive thing, right? You're calling someone, ki, boss, you have to pay me. What is your promise to pay? Which date will you pay? Now, why it is hard, because you have to follow the RBI guideline, right? You can't start abusing someone. Like, you can't get emotional. Your job is not to. It's not your money anyway. You have to just get a promise to pay. So I'm sure you would have seen some controversy in the past. It has happened, right? But as soon as AI does it, it's actually great because AI, of course, is not getting emotional here especially, and they are just like doing very objective. So I think something like collection happened the first, then we saw in terms of use cases support again like happened second. But I think now, especially with the tipping point, we saw sales, and we were again more sales oriented. So we attacked the market. That's also a very interesting strategy, I'll tell you. lot of people attacked. And today, and it's really, again, I'm grateful to my team completely, I would say, honestly. But we have had players in India competing with us on this whole AI, or even before Gen AI, etc., doing it for 4 or 5 years, and we have we are much better, like 3x better than them now in our POC outcomes, etc. I think uh, is very, very interesting also, that I think it is, again, kudos to our team. But I think the strategy that worked for us is, from a tech point of view, we never obsessed with cost, right? What I mean is that we first obsessed with solving the hardest problem. Like, we were very clear that if you can cross this tipping point, then the market that will open up from niche of trying AI to actually like real applications where you're saying, okay, how can I completely like transform and automate? And then, so we solved a much harder problem, uh, and did not care too much about cost optimization in some level. And I think obviously cost over time hopefully should reduce and margins will improve, but at least that opened up a much bigger market. And now we are, of course, going downstream also. Like, we'll not leave collections, etc., so that some startup can come kill us later on. But I think that's been a good idea as well. Versus, I think companies who were more like they couldn't come up, right? I think it's still very hard. And now the market, in fact, is now saying for collection also, I want squad quality because I want it to be hyper realistic. Like, I don't. Why should I? Because if I can have a call in which you can't make out versus a slightly robotic call, I'll rather have the call where you don't make out, right?
Hmm. Why did you rebrand from Squadrun to SquadStack?
So I think that actually happened when we went to the US, and I think everyone told us that Squadron, people will pronounce it as RON, and it will have army connotations and some of those
Right,
things.
right, 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 right,
And
right.
then by
When
the way,
someone
we did a
searches for you,
lot.
then they'll type the wrong spelling and
Exactly. And maybe there's negative connotations, and then so we did Squad Run, then we did Squad Platform, and then we were doing a few things. So we just said, okay, Squad Stack is best because at our very fundamental core, we are more about decentralization and tech, right? So,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and by the way, now we are SquadStack.ai.
Okay, okay, okay. So
So yeah,
now,
because we realized that AI is not a feature for us, right? We realized that first we thought it is, right? Because we said, look, we are all the channels, so AI is just one of the channels, and we obviously are use tech. But then we realized that it's not something that is a feature. And I told you it's going to be 80% of this industry. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting for sure.
is your margin profile different? So you said currently 50% of the workflows are human, 50% of the workflows are agentic. Do you earn different margins on these two workflows?
Yeah, we actually make, well, not today. So we are today, margin profile is similar, but this is just a minor optimization that, I mean, basically because see the elasticity of margin profile on AI side is very high, right? So I know that I would
What does
make
that mean?
double the.
Elasticity of margin profile.
Right. So what I mean is that on the AI side, see, what is your cost? Your cost is actually the cost of your models, the cost of your servers, the cost of your inference, etc. Right? On the other side, on the human side, my cost is the cost that I'm paying the human, right? So I've optimized everything outside that in the human side anyway. So I'm not giving out any money outside what I should pay meaningfully to that person. So which we are very clear that we never want to. So there's no, in some level I can't reduce it, right? Because in fact I want to actually figure out a way to pay them even more money, right? So but on the AI side, thanks to Moore's law and plus 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 that's happening, right? I think the cost of inference, cost of servers, everything is gonna intelligence, everything is gonna reduce significantly. Plus, even at our end, like, we will do a lot of optimizations with engineering, so it's easier to really.
Yeah, got it. So, there are a lot of uh, LinkedIn influencers talking of how this is the time to build. You can build a one-person business selling agentic uh, workforce to replace the salary time. Everyone talks of this salary time and how you can replace it by selling agentic workforce. Is it as easy as that you just get an API and create an agent and start selling it and saying that Why do you need a recruitment agency? I have agentic recruiters who will manage recruiting for you. So is it as easy as that, or like what's the hard problem in building AI products, and especially AI agentic products?
Right, right, right. No, it's a great question. See, I think the allure is very good of that one 10 people, like building an IPO business, etc. But I think it's like anything else. I think uh, I think we tend to overdo some of these concepts. I feel, right. I think, uh, and maybe I'll blame Twitter for that. That I think we over discuss these things. I think it's a great point, right? I think that what the point is simple, that your anyone, any human actually is now 10x, right? And it absolutely, by the way, obviously, if we go back in history and 100 years back, go to someone and show a smartphone also, so of course we are already 10x with a smartphone, right, versus like who they were. And now with AI and then maybe Neuralink, like etc., like, so we'll continuously become 10x, 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 right? So I think that point is very well taken, right? And I think I would say any human who's not agentic today, having a bunch of AI agents themselves, right, like, is really missing out and is going to get disrupted. It's just like obvious, like it almost means that someone just doesn't adapt with time types, right? So I think that theme I am very excited by. But I think, why do we need to overthink this stuff? Like, who cares? See, if you can build a billion-dollar valuable company and IPO. Now there are 10 people or 100 people who really cares. I mean, maybe maybe 500 people in LinkedIn will get excited, but no one really cares. I think you should really do what really matters for your market, for your customers. Because who has the luxury? I would be very happy to talk to a CEO who has the luxury, who's saying, yeah, you know what? I'm going to solve this problem. Man, you never have it. It's not even in your top 100 list, right? You will solve all your customers' problems or your market problems, your team's problems, or you will like say, okay, what's theoretically right?
I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Hmm.
What's your moat? Can someone just go and build what you have built using open API?
Right, right, right. No, no. So we'll discuss that separately. But that's a very interesting question. But I think I did understand. Sorry, but I was just like, oh, maybe yeah. So over commenting on that point. I think that's okay, right? I think agentic, of course, makes things 10x. But I think I'll tell you a very interesting thing. And actually, we can talk about this whole MIT 95% report, right? That 95% of the POCs are failing. And very interestingly, I can share this data that we actually are seeing 95% success rate in our POCs. And what are we doing like differently in a way, right? And I'll answer this question which you asked me: how are you implementing these agentic workflows, etc. Right? I think the first reason why this is really happening for us is, first is that the tech fundamentally, or the application actually I should say, right, that your core application that you're driving has to pass that inflection point, right? And in a way it was, I mean, we failed our internal POCs because we had a lot of human traffic and we were automating it, right? So we've been trying that for now 1.5 years. So obviously a bunch of things we did in the first 6 months that kept failing. So tech wasn't there, right? So that's totally fine. I think the tech needs to be there. The second thing is that I think it's very critical also to be very uh, smart with your enterprise partners and design these transformations to succeed. Right? Uh, you cannot obviously implement something this large and not think about it properly. Like, what would happen? How would the workflows change? What would success look like? What would failure look like? What would like, if something works in this metric, then would we scale it up? Do we have the budget? What will happen to the people doing this, right? So I think people need to think through it deeply. And I think, and we also, so this is my biggest struggle with my sales team as well, all the time, that I think everyone's over enthusiastic at some level as well, which is obviously great. It's, I mean, I would always have this, but I think it is the job of our team that we say, okay, this sounds great, but let's answer these slightly harder questions to understand where we are trying to go and think about it a little bit deeply and plan this for 6 months, 12 months across scenarios. So I think the enterprise or the partnership needs to be very ready on that end. The third and the most important thing, which has been our DNA, is also driving the service and the outcome for the enterprise, right? Again, so going back to my same example, nobody cares if it's AI or a monkey or an Elon Musk or some human. But if it's not impacting that metric, then you cannot do that. So you have to build around that. So I'll tell you, like, my biggest choke point in the company actually, Akshay, is I need more and more AI implementation and product managers who can actually write, like, beautifully understand, work with the enterprise. Ki, acha, yaar, this is the problem. Okay, this is how I write the prompts to make my platform work for one of our partners, right? So I think that is again very critical, and in fact, like, the biggest skill set probably that the market should have. And to be very honest, I struggled a little bit with my own team. Like, people were looking down at this role, right? My product engineering team was first like thinking, what is this kind of role? And I loved that, our leaders were like, dude, all of us are going to be writing prompts. So if you look down on this role, then this is being very short-sighted, right? So I definitely believe that, I think, to make these implementations mega successful, you need to have very good discovery and very good solutioning and implementation, on top of having tech and great platform.
Is your proprietary data a moat? Like, you have access to these call recordings of like a couple of years worth of call recordings.
Right. No, not couple. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, I can share that also. I think we've done billion plus interactions, 1 billion plus interactions that we basically have the permission from our clients to use also, right? And and yeah, so it. I mean, it is absolutely a huge moat, I would say, right? Because I think it gives us. It has it. I mean, it is. I would say, if you ask me, the single or the I think one reason that our platform is the best right now is, for sure, we have an amazing team and they've written an incredible optimized code and thought a lot about English Indian problems, right? Like, or even conversational problems. Like, I'll tell you, like, we've done optimizations on, like, when you're saying then should I stop or not? And when you speak in English, then I respond in English. If you speak in Hindi, I'll respond in Hindi. Or if I don't, so let's say if you speak something which was not very clear, right? Now there are multiple layers to this text. So let's say the speech to text will say, okay, I understood this. It will send to our brain, and the brain LLM will say, ki, yaar, it will determine in real time, ki, was this 70% data enough for me to understand the context to actually respond meaningfully, or should or not. If it says no, then the AI will say, oh, sorry, kya bola aapne, can you say again, right? So it's literally like your own brain. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of engineering, which, of course, I mean, Indian teams will definitely, there will be some team that will, of course, have that level of engineering. But I think the second thing is all the billions of data we are sitting on, and actual, I think, DNA of driving outcomes, and the rest of the tech stack, right? Like, the lead management is still a very critical thing for us, and that is actually getting into 10x, because now I can use that not just to do like that group level personalization, but actually, like, user level personalization, etc. So I would say these three things are kind of making us the moat. Yeah, and then long term, of course, it will be the data, and the application continues to be good. So it's literally like your own brain. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of
No, no,
key,
you finish, yeah.
whenever there is a huge tectonic shift, I think, I mean, I do think about Moat all the time, especially at nights. But I think it is not very useful. From what I understand, I think it's very useful in this time to distribute like crazy, right? Like, get plugged in as many places as possible, and at that time also, don't over optimize. Don't think, yeah, why is my implementation also not, like, why am I not one one person IPO or whatever, right? at that time actually invest in really smart people who are doing these implementations, spending time with customers, sitting in their offices. In fact, I would tell you, I think probably 30 people of our team members as of today are sitting across like 6 cities in our customer offices right now, right? So why? Because when you do all of this, then you will truly understand what Moat will look like, right? I think in this time of big change, you shouldn't overthink it.
So you're saying this is a land grab phase. Every customer you get embedded into is unlikely to switch you out. Like once you're in, you're unlikely to get switched out.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're a good team, then you'll figure out and you'll build so many wedges where, and even the platform, right? Like with data, it keeps improving for our clients. Like if a client is using it today, in a month, that is much more optimized. So, yeah, so it's absolutely a land grab. And I'll tell you on the other side, right? Customers are looking to adapt. Like when we had a capacity issue, our customers like, dude, we are gonna go ahead. It's up to you. Are you gonna be ready in a week or not?
Hmm. You spoke of the struggle to hire. Uh, what is the new talent that will succeed in this world? What's the kind? So you need people who will uh, like make your customer go live. What is that profile like? What do you look for? How do you screen and decide, yes, this is the right guy?
Right. No, great question. So at least for this specific role of AI, so we're calling it AI agent product manager, and we've gone through so many names actually, because you're trying to think what is the persona really needed, right? And I think it's very similar to like that product, a kind of a great product person, right? Which basically means we look for fundamentally three traits, right? First trait is high agency. I think it's very critical to be really high agency, willing to like hustle, work hard with the clients, and people are also in a lot of pressure to quickly move fast, etc. Right? So I think that entrepreneurial high agency is very critical, and that trait, by the way, on a side note, what you said in today's world is more relevant than ever, right? I think I mean, just being very open to change and having that fundamental self confidence here. You know what? Whatever happens, I will learn new tech and I'll figure it out and I'll keep moving on. So yeah, so first is high agency. Second is customer communication. I think it is you just have to be good in today's world to be able to talk to different stakeholders, understand their challenges, do detailed discovery, solutioning. So that's again a very critical kind of skill. And the third is actually a technical skill of like how good are you in actually writing the solutions, similar to coding, like prompting. Like how good are your prompt skills, uh, to be able to like, I mean, all of us prompt actually when we use ChatGPT or anything, then we write those prompts, right? So you can write it like way better, almost like how you code. So yeah, so these are the three fundamental skills we look for, traits we look for, and then
Is
we
there a
test them.
pattern on such people, like people who are working in such roles have good prompt skills?
That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out, I think, Akshay. And we are actually, interestingly, and I am not being restrictive, right? So we have like folks. So see, I think the first is people who've actually been, which is very small pool, is people who've been actually prompting and designing, let's say, chatbots and things like that. Uh, the second is
And these are
engineering.
typically computer science graduates who.
Yeah. But
Okay.
that's again a very small percentage. But I'll tell you the second. I think a very big segment is engineering, right? So people who've been just engineers, they're getting very excited by it because they are. So we always had this product engineering concept that you are a product engineer, which means it doesn't like, it's not about just writing code; it's actually creating impact, right? I think that DNA has led to engineers also love this role because they are like, wow, matlab, like, I'm writing, actually working and meeting and working with the CXOs of some of the companies that I see billboards of every day. So I think driving that large scale implementation, they are also very kicked, and the kind of optimization they do directly. Third is, of course, product. I think people who have been great product talent, I think it's a great role for them. So I think these two are very obvious ones. But what I'm also very keen to see how a lot of the non-obvious roles will get into this. So, like, I'll give you an example. Like, we have a lot of these trainers, right? So people who were training humans on how to like do better conversation, and they come with linguistics backgrounds, and it's very interesting persona, right? And we actually are seeing many of them become really good because they are very creative, and they also understand. They understand like what needs to be done, and they have probably have the best context. They have heard millions of recording. They've coached real people, so people who've been coaching people on this skill, they can probably coach AI really well. I think that marketing also, we are seeing very interesting that we realize that marketing folks are very creative by definition, and they actually were really good at this also because it ultimately requires creativity to write these prompts. So yeah, so I think very interesting, and it's completely open, right? I think companies like us are absolutely, we don't care about the background, nothing actually, because these are very simple, fundamental, and in fact, no one actually has a lot of experience on this already. So we are anyway looking for smart talent. Yeah.
How do you screen for this? Like you give them a scenario and ask them to write prompts.
Yeah, so the first round is just technical round where they have to write prompts for, which means, see, anyone who has, uh, to be honest, I would say anyone who's high agency and alive has, I'm sure, written enough prompts, right? Like, because they've tried out these all of these Gen AI tools, and the way it's like communication to Gen AI is by communicating through prompts, right? So that's the first thing. Then we do, and before that, of course, we look at their profiles to understand like evidence of agency, right? So I'll give you an example. If someone, any college, like, so we try to draw, I teach my team, we draw a career growth curve versus time, right? When you see a CV. So curve is very interesting thing, right? And look for like something which is exciting. So like, for example, we don't care if you were a topper or if you were a 5 pointer. But if you were a 5 pointer, I hope you were at least like managing your fest, right? If you're not doing these things, then maybe you ran a startup, right? But you have to do something, man, right? Or you could have been just a great top. But if you did not do anything, then that's not very exciting for us, right? I think so. I think we look for agency in these things, right? Okay, then you're working in a company. Okay, maybe it's not the most exciting company in the world, but on the side you are actually like running a great podcast, right? So that's amazing. So the point is to figure out that, and it's a hard lesson, man. But I'll tell you, in talent hiring, what I've learned is, like every other truth in the world, is that history is truly the study of future, right? It is so if someone has not had all the evidence, maybe they will be, but I don't think it makes sense to bet on them to be high agency now if they've never done it.
How do you retain high agency people? Because a lot of high agency folks are somewhat allergic to regular corporate jobs.
Right. By not having a regular corporate job, man, the short answer. But no, I think we actually uniquely, we're probably the most unique in this way. Where I said we are a roughly 250 people team right now, and 19% of our team has been full time founders, right? So after college, so people have started up and ran companies full time, and these people have touchwood as something that in our culture that I think they love, and then they have stayed with us for years, and in fact, many of them are leaders now in the company. So
What is it in your culture? Like that's what I want to get out from you. Like a couple of pointers.
yeah, uh, I think one is, um, let me take a minute to think about it because it's a very interesting question.
Basically, if you were to interview them and ask
Right.
them why did you stick on, would there be a pattern?
Right. Yeah, there would be a pattern. I think one piece is, that I think we expect and we allow for a lot of ownership. Sorry, just give me a sec.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was saying, Akshay, yeah. So I think people staying in the company, right? So I think one thing is that we expect a lot of ownership from folks, like in whatever they do, and we don't like to micromanage them. And I think that so I think giving them a lot of accountability is something I think that works really well. I think the second thing, which is really something that I have gone on to accept over time, is that also I think leading with love. I'll just take a minute to explain that. I think if you think about it, there are various emotions that you can leverage to build a large org, right? So I think uh, I think love is a very underrated emotion.
I have never heard that from a founder before about leading with love. What's a How does it play out? Like, give me an example to help me
No,
understand.
I'll give you an example, right? Like for
Uh,
your mom, you would jump out of the building right now, right? That is that. I mean, what? Tell me what other emotion for your, if you're afraid of your boss, are you gonna jump out of the building? No, you're gonna probably push him from the building. But so that's what I mean. I think love is such a strong emotion that I think if people could figure out a way to channelize in the right way, like deeply caring about people. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. I'll just get
yeah, yeah, yeah,
water.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So I think, uh, yeah. So should we do the whole thing properly again, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
this?
So just start from the answer, like to help me understand what that means.
Right. So yeah, I would say ki, yeah, I think what sorry, the entrepreneurial thing and all that is okay. Now leading with love, so we can continue.
Just leading with love. That mom example you gave, na? You can start with that.
Sure. Yeah. So I think leading with love, I think love is a very underrated emotion. I feel, and I think, you think if, I mean, it makes you soft, probably is what first that people will think about, right? But I think, like for example, you will jump out of the building right now if you know you have, if it's for your mom, right? So I think that is what, and no other emotion can make you do that ever, right? So I think love is such a strong emotion, which is not really leveraged well, I think, right? And it cannot, and the beauty of love is it has to be pure, right? It cannot be fake. Like I cannot,
Artificial, right?
it can, exactly, like people see through it, right? So I think when you truly deeply care about everyone around you, and I think they start caring about everyone else, and I think like when you build a culture around that, then you're, of course, then there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of love towards your mission, there's a lot of love towards the work you do, there's love towards the impact you're creating for your clients. uh, and you're absolutely, like, still you're very audacious, you're very hardworking, very ambitious. We strongly always say, stolen from Amazon, that we work hard, we work long, and we work smart. Like there's no one out of the three that you can do, right? so
Mm,
so
mm.
all of that, man. But I think if you encapsulate all of that in a culture which is not afraid to put a lot of love smileys on each other's messages, and truly deeply care, right, and not afraid to show that, I think it's a real superpower. And I think that is what definitely makes a lot of folks with high agency really ambitious. I mean, most of the team is much, much more smarter than Vikas, Kanika, and I, who are the founders, right? And I think the reason they continue to build with us and dream with us is because of that fundamental emotion. And it's like a sports team, right? I'm actually very inspired by sports, especially sports coaching, even more than watching sports, right? Uh, to understand how to be a great leader. And if you see, like how coaches have, so there's this term called Ubuntu, which is an African philosophy actually, which Nelson Mandela used when the South African independence happened, right? And I don't know if you know a little bit, but basically what happened was that the independence that happened, obviously the half the I mean, the majority of the population hated the whites, and then and if they would
Yeah.
have all fought, everyone would have died. so
Hmm. Hmm.
so that way, Mandela, of course, is one of the strongest leaders in the world, forever, right? And I think he had the foresight to say, you know what, this cannot happen, and we can't like kill each other. We'll kill the country. And they used this philosophy of Ubuntu, which is a which is an African philosophy where they say that my value depends on the value of the people around me, right? So this means that I don't have to, be like, oh, Akshay is like doing this like really great podcast. He'll get better than me. Like I never feel like that, right? Because I know that my value depends on actually your value. And if you think about it, philosophically, right? I think different roles you can do across times, right? So imagine if you were in the 1700s, and I always believe that a very exciting thing to do would have been to be like Columbus and say, and that's how I think of startup, right? I think that you say, okay, let's I mean, this whole ocean thing, let's go out there and see what we can find, and maybe we can find some other continents, etc., or find better paths to these places. So, so I think when you see all of these like different roles that have evolved, I think like building. I think we have the best structure as a startup. What I mean is that because now we have ESOPs and things like that, right? So it's not just theoretical concept, right? There's actually a logical reason in which that truly my valuation is increasing as your valuation is increasing. So like if you're a leader today who is, let's say, more obsessed with a certain problem, then if you do really well, then I win also, right? So I think that kind of Ubuntu as a concept, I'm trying to really like get everyone in my team to adopt to it, and and yeah. So I think that's what. So I think there are so many like different concepts around within love. I think that can really be leveraged, and then you can create something like really magical, right? I think when you really enjoy every day when you come, and by the way, when I say all this, like we fight, like you should see us fight, right? I think so we fight exactly like, by the way, how I used to fight with my with all the kids I used to play with in the playground, right? So we fight as passionately as that, and it's not like any of us can pull off some shit and we're not going to be called out for it. So it's absolutely very much there, right? But it is like the same thing. I think the emotion of sports, that why you here, like what, and that's my life philosophy also, by the way. I think like I'm here to play, right? I mean, and if you again like philosophy, you think about step up. I think it's a dream job to be a founder, because I mean, you basically have this weird philosophy of how the world should look like, and you have some crazy idea, and then you are able to get a bunch of other people to join you in that expedition, and then maybe some, I mean, maybe if you are lucky enough, then people will give you capital also and crores of rupees. See, okay, go
You're
play.
like Columbus.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're playing also, right? And actually, you're not like Columbus. I mean, let poor guy, they were like, I mean, we're gonna die, right? If they take a bad move, and we keep saying we'll die, but physically nothing will happen. I mean, we will go on a next expedition tomorrow. So I think it's such a beautiful. Uh, that's what I was telling you, man. I'm quite a nerdy purist with this whole startup thing. That I just feel like it's just so cool, right? I think you can. I mean, it's just play. Really, I think there's no better way to say that.
Fascinating. Thank you for your time, Apurv. It was a real fun conversation.
Likewise, thank you so much, Akshay, and I love the depth of your questions as well, man. I think it's. I mean, I can't imagine how someone can be so well read to ask. I mean, you you literally like understood cloud telephony and all. I was like,